Recording artist, composer, and assistant professor of jazz studies at Michigan State University, Etienne Charles has returned home for the Caribbean release of his latest album, San Jose Suite. From all accounts, the internationally acclaimed trumpeter's latest offering promises to take listeners through a historical journey of 3 San Jose cities. This album has already risen to number 2 on the Jazz Week charts. Etienne, welcome and thank you for agreeing to speak with us.
Thank you so very much for having me, definitely. How are you doing?
I'm good, really good. So let's go directly to San Jose Suite. In an article dated November 13th, Nigel Campbell said, and this is a quote, direct quote, Charles uses the coincidence of the name San Jose to make a subliminal link between the Caribbean, Latin American, and North American cultural tendencies. Did he accurately summarize San Jose Suite and what it was intended to be?
You know, I read that article by Nigel, and I think he did. It's always interesting to hear how people listen to the music and then come with, after doing a little bit of research about what the music was about, understand the drive behind music. And yes, I think that Nigel was able to put it into one sentence with that description. I do agree that that's the goal of the music.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit more about San Jose Suite. How was this project conceptualized?
So it actually came to me in a dream. Funny enough, it was I remember it was January 2014, and I had just finished playing. I played in San Jose, California in 2013, and I had played in Costa Rica, San Jose, Costa Rica in 2007. And I mean, I'm from Trinidad, so I've been to St. Joseph a bunch of times, and I have family that live there, and so it was about, okay, well, you know, these are 3 former Spanish colonies. Let's do a little bit of an experiment, as in what connects them. And so the common denominators became the indigenous people and their experiences, and the African descendants and their experiences in the 3 different places. And so through digging through history, I started learning about some of the events that happened, some of the festivals that happened, and from that, then I went again. So came back to Trinidad in December for Christmas, and went up into San Jose and started hanging out with people like Clarita Rivas and starting to learn about groups like the San Jose Serenaders, specifically like musical groups. And then I also met with Cristo Adonis, he's the PI of the First Peoples of Trinidad and Tobago. PI is like the medicine man. And he gave me a vast oral history about the culture and about, you know, he told me about events that happened, like, and dropped names, people like Hayarima, who were great feared warriors of the Nepuyo tribe. And then I went to Costa Rica, and I went to San Jose, and I met with a musician by the name of Manuel Monestel. And he said, yeah, well, you know, you in San Jose, but that's good, but you really need to go to Limon and Cahuita, because that's where the Caribbean people came. And so I had known about the Caribbean culture in Costa Rica because of the West Indians that came to Costa Rica in the mid-19th century. They came to dig the Panama Canal, and then after that, they went up to Costa Rica to build a railroad instead. So we drove down, myself and Maria News, photographer, we drove down to Limon and to Cahuita and met with the Calypso King. His name is Walter Ferguson. Speaks with a thick Jamaican accent. He's never been to Jamaica, ever. He was born in Panama to Jamaican parents, moved to Costa Rica when he was a little boy. And he sang for us. And then that night, there's a Calypso bar, and they had a live Calypso band called the Cowway Band. And it was all these musicians that I had been looking for. Danny Williams, Giante, all these, they were all in one band. And we stumbled upon this spot. They're like, yeah, they're going to be a live Calypso at this spot. Now, a live Calypso band on a random Saturday night in December in the middle of Costa Rica. It was beautiful to see how our culture as West Indians has in addition to being strong here, has gone to different places, you know. And so that was the African influence in Costa Rica. And also Marcus Garvey, his first job was in Costa Rica in Puerto Limon. He was a timekeeper for the United Fruit Company. So Limon, the song on the album, is about that struggle, about being a migrant worker. Then we went up into the mountains of Costa Rica, the Pacific, off of the Pacific coast, the Paruca people. They're one of 8 indigenous tribes left in Costa Rica, and they were the last indigenous tribe to submit to Spanish rule. And so I stayed with them for a week, and they had this festival going on called the Juego de los Diablitos, which is a festival where they basically, well, in addition to commemorating and paying tribute to those who passed on, they also reenact through a dance and through music the battle that they had with the Spanish conquistadors, and the legend has it that their battle with the Spanish lasted 34 years. And so they do it over a 3-day period, and they basically there's a fife playing and there's a drum, and they basically button heads with this bull. It's a costume bull, so it's
Okay.
they make a frame, a bull frame, and somebody puts it on. There's a bull head as a mask, like a wooden mask that looks like a bull head, and somebody puts it on, and then they bump heads with all of the different Diablitos or the Baruca people. And everybody else is just walking around. The sun is blazing down. You know how that sun hits in January. Now imagine you're up in the mountains with that sun hitting. And so that was the Baruca people. I wrote the piece Baruca about them, and the piece Juego de los Diablitos. And then in May, went to California to meet with the Muwekma Ohlone people, and to meet with, for the African immigrants in California, I decided to make it a little switch, and I decided to use the students who came to California to study at San Jose State University. Many of them were athletes, and so they went for the track team, football team, basketball team, etc. And so I singled out a gentleman by the name of Dr. Harry Edwards. Dr. Harry Edwards, he's a professor emeritus at UC Berkeley, but many years ago he was a professor at San Jose State. He also graduated from San Jose State University, and at the time that school was segregated. 1960s, most state universities in the U.S. were segregated, and so him and a few other students led this charge to desegregate campus. What we know today about that whole movement culminated, of course, with the very famous Black Power salute of John Carlos and Tommy Smith at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City, which is during the medal ceremony, the national anthem of the United States is playing. They stood up with black gloves on and put their fists in the air. That they were both students at San Jose State University. And that's the song Speed City is about that, because the name Speed City was the nickname for San Jose at the time, because most of the fastest track and field athletes in the country, in the world, went to school there. And then I got to sat down with Rosemary Canberra, who is the chairperson of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe that's the indigenous tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. And she gave me a vast story, and she gave me a vast account of their history. And I actually sat down with the ethno-historian, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Alan Leventhal, who gave me a full 2-hour PowerPoint presentation about their history. And from that, I went and wrote the piece Muwekma. So that, in a nutshell, was the whole research, the whole field research for the suite. And then when I came home, I sat down on the piano. I started trying to construct sounds based on the moods that I got out of each place, and constructed some bass lines and melodies off of the rhythms that I heard in each place. So that's how it came about.
So you traveled to these 3 San Jose cities for research for the album. Which city, which experience stuck out to you the most, and why?
A couple, but probably the most prevalent one to me was the Costa Rica experience, simply because of the fact that it's indigenous people, basically a nation within a country that has been living the same way for centuries. Only thing different now is they have cell phones and internet, but everything else is basically the same. They still grow their own food, they still make their own textile. And just to see such a foreign culture, but then see how similar it is to our culture here in Trinidad. To me, Baruca is very similar to Pyramid. Like, a lot of Trinidadians don't know much about Pyramid, but Pyramid is like a country. It's autonomous, completely autonomous in a sense, culturally, and I mean they grow a lot of their. I had a lot of similarity. The devils of Pyramid, the Diablos of Baruca. So there were a lot of similarities there that both Maria Nunes and myself were able to pick up on when we were there. And then of course getting this to hear Calypso and see, and they sing Trinidadian, so they sang Congo Man, and I was playing with them. They sang Congo Man, they sang all these classic Calypsos. And so, and then to be in California, to be in Trinidad with Cristo, each experience was great by itself, but if I were to look at the whole suite as a big picture, I would say that in the middle, Costa Rica kind of stood out the most.
Okay, now that the suite is completed, would you say that you're satisfied that your vision has been actually realized?
Yes, I think we were very thorough in the music, and I was very thorough in the research and in drawing the pictures in my mind musically, and it won't be complete until we get to play it in each place. So it won't really be complete until we get to play it in Costa Rica. But for me, because for me, music is not music until it's played for people. Other than that, it's just an idea, right? Like for me, the music is in the exchange between from one person to the other. And so, but yes, the actual suite, the actual music, the actual recording came out just like I wanted it to.
Are you satisfied with the response rate so far?
Yes, it's been fascinating to see how people appreciate learning about history while listening to music and getting stories, getting perspective, getting context as to what caused the music. We just did it in Toronto 2 weeks ago, and the audience was extremely receptive and really cool. We ended up doing an encore at the end. When we played in New York, when we played in San Jose at the California Theater, there was a huge reception there because in California they're dealing with a lot of social issues right now with respect to homelessness and gentrification, and the Gold Rush 2.0 deals with that in the suite. And so, I made sure to speak about it beforehand, so they were very appreciative, especially the people who are from San Jose, about somebody coming in and talking about us and playing music.
Do you have a favorite song in the album?
I have. I mean, that's like choosing,
Among your children.
Oh yeah, I mean, I like Kawita because it's a joyous tune, and it's about a joyous place, and it's about joyous people, the Stevensons and the Kawi band and the people of Kawita, and their beauty and their magnetic way of just living together. And the fact that they speak English down there, like us. Yeah, Kawita is special. Speed City is special because it's current now. I mean, you look at the dynamic, the socio-cultural dynamic in the U.S. right now with respect to prejudice happening still, and re-gentrification and almost re-segregation with respect to education and things like that. It's prevalent now as it was then in terms of student protests and black rights and Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. So for me, those two are probably the most that speak to me the most as pieces.
Okay. And you've experienced a lot of international success. Why return home for a Caribbean launch?
Oh, it's most important. I mean, you always have to come back home. I mean, for me, this is where it all started. This is where I'm from. This is where I started playing music. This is where I started composing. And so for me, it's always a joy to get to come home and present my music to, my local audience, Trinidad and Tobago, and to see how they notice the music growing, because some of my first gigs ever were in Trinidad. And there are people who come to the show that they've been to every single gig I've done since 1995 at the Brass Institute. And so it's about trajectory. It's about connecting with the audience. And this is at the core, I'm a Trinidadian, so this is Trinidadian music. This is Trinbagonian music. So no better place to play it than in Trinidad and Tobago. So that's why I always try to do a concert in either Trinidad or Tobago somewhere towards the end of the tour. So after the music has picked up and after the music has evolved and has picked up and we've changed things and we do things different, then we come home and say, all right, boom, we're coming to get you this.
Okay, so what do you credit your success?
Wow. I mean, some people say that success is a combination of when preparation meets opportunity. But there are other factors involved. The ability to prepare. So for me, most importantly, I think the biggest reason that I've had some degree of success is because of my family. My parents, my sister, my aunts, my uncles, like my cousins, like my family. They are a big support system because with them, they provided the confidence in me that I could have then stepped forward and decided to take risks. Like San Jose Suite is a very risky project. It's all original music. A lot of times you do an album and you might do the music of Bob Marley, or you might do the music of Duke Ellington, or you take the chance because you know that people already know that music and they would just want to hear your version of it. But they always pushed, make your statements. This is your time. Leave your mark. And so, with that in mind, that's why I'm able to push and try things and not really have fear. I would say another reason for having some degrees of success is because of the fact that I am a professor at a university. And so I have a core of faculty that are great musicians as well, who push me on the creative front, and they push me on the research and historical front. And then I have students who are always pushing me to make sure I'm the best trumpet player I can be. And in their learning, I'm learning, and in my learning, they're learning. And so I would say that those are huge, huge factors. Another big factor that I'm really grateful to have a band of loyal musicians who are great at their craft and who really submit to the music when we come together, because they're great on their own and they're band leaders in their own right. But when we come together, and we've been touring the world now for 10 years. And so that, and I'm grateful to them because we've grown together as a band. We've grown together as musicians. So now when I write knowing that John Davis is going to play something like this, or that Alex Wentz will be able to play something like this. Or I'll hear them play something while we're on a show, and I'll take that and I'll write a tune around some of those ideas, knowing that it will feature their strengths. And yes, I think it's my family, my students, my colleagues. They're very, very supportive, and they're all great recording artists in their own right. So we all kind of push each other, And so I must credit Michigan State University. I must give thanks to my family. Sitting down. I always tell people, success comes from the art of putting the seat of the pants to the seat of the chair. And what that means is you sit down and you do the work. You just sit down and you do it. You figure out what needs to get done and you do it. What needs to happen here? Okay, this is this. Okay, I need to learn how to do this. And you sit down and you figure it out. And I'm grateful that my parents instilled that in me when I was young, because it has really driven me to push.
Okay. Your parents and siblings into music as well?
Yeah, it's funny. My whole family is music. The Charles family is a music family. It used to be a church music family. My uncle used to lead a choir and things like La Petite Musicale and all those types of groups. But my mother, both of her grandfathers were musicians. Her mother's father was Clément Montlouis, who was actually, I don't know if you know who Edric Connell was. He was a great broadcaster in London. Was a Trinidadian. And he kind of desegregated broadcast journalism in the UK. And but my great grandfather taught him music.
Wow.
And then her father's father was a man named Etienne, who's from Parliament. His real name was Zephyrin Mendez, and he was a quattro player. And even after he left Parliament and moved to Bossier, he would still come up to Parliament every Friday, play his quattro. And then my father played in steel bands. He played in Phase 2. He played in Renegades. He played in a bunch of different groups. He played in Silver Stars. And he was a DJ as well. My dad used to be a DJ. And his father, Ralph Charles, was a quattro player and guitarist and singer. So there was a lot of music, and I'm grateful because all my uncles play guitar, quattro. Everybody plays something.
Any relation to Clifford Charles?
Clifford the guitarist? No. Charlo? Okay. No, we're not related. We checked. Because some of my first gigs ever were with Charlo back when he was in the police band, long time ago.
It's a younger artist here at home. What would you say to them if they were to ask you how they could successfully cross over from doing what is often regarded as underground music here to actually making it mainstream?
Well, build it. That's basically how do you expand your audience, basically. Because the only difference between underground and mainstream is who's listening to it, right? I would say that comes from continuously doing the same thing. With respect to your music getting out there. That's the whole concept of branding, right? But also getting people to talk about your music, getting radio stations to play your music, getting TV stations to feature your music. Always putting the music with a name so that if it's this song by this band, people always know that this song is by this band and that this band plays this song. To go mainstream in a sense means that you need to make sure you're very explicit in your descriptions, because you want people to immediately be able to know what it's about without even listening to it. You want them to be able to have a picture in their head of what's going on. without even having listened, so that when they listen, there's even more to see. And then it's about live engagement and playing live as much as possible, getting radio play, and building up a database with your audience, making sure that you have a way of keeping in touch with them, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or email, that there's some way that you have your base of people that you can reach out to that know you're playing at Queen's Hall, it's November 20th, whatever it is, but that they know that that's what's going on.
Are you satisfied with the growth of jazz here in Trinidad and Tobago?
I am, because I remember when there was a little bit less going on, and there's been a huge resurgence simply because, improvisational music is the most expressive form in our music, because you are constantly creating, you're constantly communicating with other people. It's completely conversational music, and there's been a huge wave of young musicians coming up out of Toronto. You got people like Rodney Alexander, you got Madupe Onelu, you got Anthony Woodruff, they're all young, and by young I mean under 40. They're all pushing the envelope to they're interested. People like Ming. There's a lot of musicians out there. Terrence Shaw, people like Sean Thomas. There's a healthy. When I was coming up, it was Sean Thomas, Dougie Redon, Terrence Shaw, Clive Zander, were the main people that I kept myself surrounded to try to figure out what was going on. And now there's a venue. There's a great venue for the music. Kaiso Blues Cafe is a great venue for jazz. And it's one of my favorite places to play in the whole wide world, simply because the acoustics in there. I don't need a microphone as a trumpet player in there. So I can play and I can manipulate the sound of the room. There are very few rooms where I can manipulate the sound of the room with my horn. And so that's why I love playing Kaiso Blues. And I always urge people to make sure and support local music, because the scene can only grow if the audience grows. And if the audience doesn't grow, musicians have to do something else to make a living.
What would you say has been the most rewarding moment of your career to date?
Most rewarding moment in my career. It's funny because I have different careers, right? So I'm a teacher, I'm a musician, I'm a composer, I'm a producer. So I would say, as a teacher, one of my most rewarding moments was watching one of my former students come in and do a master class with my current students. Because to see, when I met him his name is Anthony Stanko, and he's the jazz trumpet teacher at Ohio State University now, and he tours the world with his group for American Music Abroad program. And so we brought him in for a master class, and to watch Stanko teach, for me, it was fascinating to see how certain elements he used and certain elements he didn't, and to see how he grew into his own person, and see how he grew into his own trumpet player and his own teacher. And then watch my students learn from him. For me, that was fascinating. And then as a performer, wow. I've had many great moments. One time we were playing in front of 80,000 people in Morocco. And the King of Morocco was there, and it was really like, it was Ganawa trance music that we were playing. It was a jazz group that was playing Ganawa music. And to see a crowd like that get dead silent, 80,000 people, that was mind-blowing. I've been lucky. I'm grateful. We get to play every continent except Antarctica, and I've got to see some of the world's wonders, and I'm grateful to get to continue to do that, and fly the flag of Trinidad and Tobago. And a lot of people I meet, I feel proud when I say I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and they say something, "Oh, Dwight York," and I might say Brian Lara. I feel proud to know that there are people everywhere that know who we are.